Dolphins and Chargers face off this upcoming Sunday in NFL Week 6. It's a big game for a lot of reasons. Mike McDaniel's future, as well as a lot of other coaches' futures in this organization. But we also have major injury news to discuss heading into this game. Initial injury reports came out yesterday. Both coaches spoke to the media. A lot to break down on today's show. I am Nick Roloff. And listen, I'll be honest. Do I want Mike McDaniel fired? Yes. But I also want the Dolphins to remain unbeaten against Justin Herbert and the Chargers since they were drafted in that same draft class. You, if you're with me, like the video if you want to beat the Chargers this upcoming Sunday. All right, the first piece of injury news is around the kicker, Jason Sanders. He was obviously placed on IR before the season began. Riley Patterson has been filling in for the first 5 weeks of the year. Sanders was eligible to return off of IR last week against Carolina, did not. And McDaniels said he will remain on IR this week as well. They have not even designated his 21-day practice window to return as of yet either. So it feels like Patterson will be the kicker for this team for the foreseeable future. And it's not the worst thing in the world. We've talked about this over the past couple of weeks. Riley Patterson has been absolutely phenomenal for the Miami Dolphins, and he really hasn't changed anything. Where it's like, hey, the Dolphins, you could argue with Sanders being so good, maybe bypass some field goal attempts because they don't have Sanders and they have Riley Patterson. Well, that hasn't been the case. Anytime they're in field goal range and should kick a field goal, they have. It's not like they've had a 55-yarder they passed up because they don't have Jason Sanders. And Patterson has simply been perfect. He has not missed an extra point. He's 5 for 5 on field goals. Now, they have not attempted a 50-plus yard field goal at this point. All 5 field goals they've attempted have between the 36 and 47 range. But listen, he's perfect from 36 to 47 right now. Hasn't missed an extra point. So there's no need to find a new kicker. There's no need to rush Jason Sanders back from that hamstring injury because Patterson's been awesome. So shout out to RP. Another injury, Tyrel Dodson. He left the game last Sunday against Carolina with a head injury, was in concussion protocol starting on Monday. Well, as of Wednesday afternoon, he remains on concussion protocol. Mike McDaniel said they will take a fresh look at both KJ Britt and Willie Gay this week in terms of how they allocate their snaps at that linebacker position. And you see it in the tweet here from Barry Jackson. If you look at the linebackers, KJ Britt is the quote-unquote Tyrel Dodson replacement. Willie Gay Jr. is the quote-unquote Jordan Brooks replacement. So you saw KJ Britt fill in for 20-plus snaps against the Panthers when Dodson left halfway through that game. The question is, though, should that be the continued plan going forward, or should Miami take a look at maybe changing some roles around and playing Willie Gay Jr. alongside Jordan Brooks? Well, let's take a look at what these two players have done this season in very limited opportunities. Willie Gay Jr. has shown up in more games than KJ Britt, but Britt has technically outsnapped Willie Gay. You see 23 snaps for Britt, you see 17 for Gay. And Britt has been more productive. He's played more consistently in that game against Carolina. But in the limited opportunities that Willie Gay has had to this point, he has been the better football player. He's more rangy. He's more athletic. He's been graded out higher in coverage and overall. I just believe that Willie Gay should get more playing time. I really do. It's been frustrating to see the lack of snaps for him, considering how well he played in the preseason and in these joint practices and during training camp. I don't understand why Miami has not had him out on defense, considering that they've had the worst defense in all of football. Wouldn't it make sense to make some changes and play a linebacker that was really good in the preseason? You would think so, but this is also a very dumb organization. Pin comment, who do you think should fill in for the Miami Dolphins at linebacker for Tyrel Dodson? Do you think it should be Willie Gay? If you think so, type WG. If you think it should be KJ Britt like it was in Week 5, type KJ. I kind of alluded to it just a second ago. The usage of Willie Gay through 5 weeks of the season, it's really a crime against humanity. I just don't understand why he is not seeing more reps on the football field. He is rangy. He's athletic. He's fiery. There will not be a player that plays harder on the field at any point during a game than Willie Gay. And with all the reports that came out in August about him dominating training camp practices, joint practices, you just don't understand why Miami is looking to not play him right now. Doesn't make any sense. Like, make changes. It's the worst defense in all of football. Like, I'll be pissed if he doesn't play. Like, that's as simple as it gets. If I watch this game on Sunday, which is already a chore at times with this team, and I don't see Willie Gay on the field at least 50% of the defensive snaps, that's upsetting. It's malpractice. It's stupid. Like, if you want to split reps between Britt and Gay, fine by me. But get Willie out there for at least 35 snaps. Like, if you're going to be on defense for 65, 32-33 allocation. Come on. Get him out on the football field. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every single day. The right decisions on PrizePicks can get you paid, especially this football season. Simple to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks is the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. Want to pick more on Josh Allen's yards, rush yards, and touchdowns? Well, you can pick all of them in the same lineup only on PrizePicks. And they offer injury reboots as well. If one of your players leaves the game in the first half and doesn't return, PrizePicks won't count it as a loss. My entry for week 6, no Dolphins. Just going less than Justin Fields passing yards, less than Dylan Gabriel passing yards, and more than Deebo Samuel total rushing or receiving touchdowns. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Now we're going to take a look at the Chargers side because there was a lot of news that we just discussed around Miami. There was actually more news to discuss on the Los Angeles Chargers and how they are impacted for this Week 6 matchup in Miami Gardens. Let's start with what took place on Tuesday afternoon when the Chargers made a shocking trade with the Baltimore Ravens to grab edge rusher Odafe Oweh. That was a stunner move. And people were wondering, okay, you make this trade for Oweh, a player that's had a lot of success in Baltimore. Well, is he going to be able to play this week against the Miami Dolphins? Well, Jim Harbaugh said on Wednesday afternoon at his press conference that he does expect Oweh to ultimately play and compared him to Khalil Mack, direct rusher, has speed, has depth, can set the edge. Very good, productive young player in his career, but the part I really wanted to mention is that he is going to likely play against the Miami Dolphins this Sunday. And, I mean, we're talking about a team here in Miami that has one of the worst offensive lines in football, and they have to play a solid edge rusher that the Chargers just added to the rotation. Like, isn't that great? Like, it's unbelievable, the luck of this team sometime. Now, let's be real here. Oweh has actually had a pretty disappointing 2025 campaign, had a really good 2024 season, entering the final year of his deal this season. The Ravens expected him to break out and then maybe get a big payday in Baltimore. Ultimately, wasn't the case. So they cut bait and recouped some assets instead of letting him walk potentially in the offseason for nothing. Now, the production isn't there in terms of his sacks or TFLs, but he has been graded out very nicely as a 72.3 pass rusher. It has a 16.4% pass rush win rate, which actually ranks in the top 25 of qualified edge rushers. So even though the production hasn't been there so far for Oweh, he has been putting pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and now he will have the opportunity to play for the Chargers this week against Miami, in Miami, where the Dolphins' whole line has had certainly a lot of struggles. More injury news to come here in a second, but make sure you do subscribe to the channel. We'll be live on Sunday for Chargers Dolphins Week 6 action, but we have you covered in between each game with the latest Dolphins news, rumors, and everything you need to know. So join the family and join Dolphins today, right now. Well, there's also some other news on Joe Alt here, which I believe we have that social coup. Maybe not, but either way, Jim Harbaugh reported today or yesterday that Joe Alt did not practice on Wednesday, but is progressing nicely. Well, this tells me that Joe Alt, the second-year offensive tackle, is likely not going to play on Sunday against the Dolphins. Now, this was the widely expectation considering he had a high ankle sprain just a couple weeks ago, and those take 3-4 weeks for these guys to return. But he'll miss this game against the Dolphins. And that is a break for Miami because this Chargers O-line is absolutely horrific. I mean, you look at what starters they had for this past couple of weeks without Alt and without Rashawn Slater, who's been out for the season. They've went with Austin Deculus, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Mekhi Becton, and Trey Pipkins. Well, you see their PFF grades on screen. Not one of them has a grade in the 60s. And if you look at their ranks at their specific positions, it's been horrific. Deculus is one of the worst offensive tackles in football. Both him and Pipkins rank in the bottom 11 at that position. Mekhi Becton, who they signed in free agency, has been atrocious as well. And Bradley Bozeman has been actually awful. He is the second worst rated center in the National Football League. And there is some buzz out there that Bozeman might actually be benched this week in favor of veteran Andre James, who we have seen play for the Las Vegas Raiders in the past. So the reason why I'm talking about this and showcasing this is the Dolphins' front seven has been bad this year. I thought it was the strength of this football team. Boy, was I wrong. They have not been able to get after the passer. They've been the worst run defense by a wide margin in the NFL. They are already an embarrassing unit. But this would be an all-time low as an organization and a position group if this front four and front seven struggled against the Chargers offensive line. Like if they're unable to generate pressure on Justin Herbert, if they're unable to stop the run like they were last week against the Panthers and Rico Dowdle, you should honestly just blow up the entire organization because that offensive line in LA is on par with Miami's, if not a little bit worse. That's how bad the Chargers offensive line has been through the first 5 weeks of the season. But you also take into account that they will be down their star rookie. They drafted Omarion Hampton out of North Carolina in the first round of this year's draft, and he got off to a slow start, but over the past couple of weeks against the the Giants and early on in that Commanders game, Omarion Hampton was looking like the first-round pick the Chargers drafted him to be. Well, he got placed on IR, which means Hassan Haskins and Kimani Vidal are going to be the top two running backs for the Chargers this week. But I don't want Dolphins fans to look at this and say, we're facing a bad O-line, and Hassan Haskins and Kimani Vidal, we shouldn't have to worry about their run game. Well, just remember 4 days ago, Rico Dowdle ran for 206 against you. So sure, this front seven should be able to have one of their better games, considering they are going up against a bruised and battered and awful offensive line, as well as two running backs that wouldn't start on 31 other football teams. But, I mean, based off what we saw last week, it's hard to project Miami is going to have a good job stopping the run because of how bad they have been this season. All right, that's it for the news today. It's that time. Predict the score of Dolphins-Chargers. We're not doing a preview this week because I don't think you guys care about that. But I did want to see your predictions for Dolphins-Chargers. Let me know. I'm giving you mine here in just 1 second. I think the Chargers come into Miami and get a win. They're 4.5-point favorites. I think they win and cover. Not by much, though. I do expect this game to be relatively close because the Chargers' offensive line is very bad and they have been very banged up. And we've seen a team in LA lose on the road to the Giants 2 weeks ago, lost at home to the Commanders last week. Like, this isn't a team that is playing at the level they were in the first 3 weeks of the year where they started off 3-0 and beat a couple solid teams like the Broncos and the Chiefs. But I do expect them to take care of business in Miami because this is a football team in the Dolphins that seem like they may have given up and a coach that we know is likely on the outs. So give me the Chargers to come into Miami, put up 31 points against a horrific Dolphins defense. I think the Dolphins offense will be able to score a little bit, but not enough. They lose 31-25. That'll do it for this episode. We'll be live later today, and we'll be live on Sunday for NFL Week 6. So subscribe to the channel and join us for daily Dolphins coverage.